Arch Advocate podcast for Friday, April 26th. It's Friday, folks. Welcome back and thank you for joining. Please do hit subscribe. Please hit subscribe. It supports the show more than you know. I'm a poet. Now listen, funny things going on. Just kind of a heads up. I'm going to talk about normal stuff first, and then I'm going to once again. I think this is like the fourth or fifth time that I will be making an attempt to assure you, to convince you that I am in fact a crazy person. Anyways, Joe Biden. Normal stuff. Let's talk about normal stuff for just a second. Joe Biden launches his presidential campaign yesterday. And he comes out with this video, right? So Joe Biden is now in the race. And there are, as everybody knows, there are 2,020 people running for president under the Democratic banner. Right? The 2020 race. It's not the year, it's how many Democrats are running. And this is, it truly is a circular firing squad. It's going to be hilarious. And not only that, but here's another thing to try to remember. All right? Because this, when precedent is set, then strategies can be made. And although most of us were too young to be paying attention back then, but in '92, when Bill Clinton ran for president, right? Reagan's presidency ended in '88, and then for the next 4 years, it was George Bush, and he lost against Bill Clinton. Now, if you'll remember back then, Bill Clinton showed up late to the party. They injected him into the race very late. And it was by design, right? It was a bold strategy. I don't know that had ever been done before, because the thing was, it was back then, Clinton was young. Bill Clinton was young. He was handsome, very articulate. Man, you go back and listen to some of those State of the Union addresses and some of the speeches that Bill Clinton made. They were compelling. He was a good speaker. He was good looking, and he was young. You know, Hillary was still kind of pretty back then. She still had that youthful glow. I know, again, I know most of you people, your stomachs are turning right now. Mine is too. I get it. But just remember where we were. What was it? How old was I? 92. So that was, I don't know. I think I was 18 when he first started running. I can't do the math in my head. But anyways, I think that's what they're doing. I think they're going to do that again this time around, because it's like, well, who do you have? You have a bunch of crazy people talking about cow farts and, gay marriage, and not gay marriage like, oh, we should make this legal. It's like, Pete Buttigieg, Mayor Pete is like, no, you should vote for me to run the free world because I take it in the pooper. That gay marriage. It's like, yeah, I don't know that qualifies you to be president. Who else do you have? Old Boston bomber Bernie? Old breadline Bernie? Right? I mean, I get it. He's this sweet old Muppet-looking character. He's got funny hair. He really does look like Karl Marx as far as personal grooming goes. And, the rumors about Marx was that the dude stunk to high heaven, and his hygiene is greatly responsible for his death. Like, the dude wouldn't bathe. Bernie Sanders was literally so lazy that he got kicked out of a hippie commune. Right? Like, back in the day, like hippies, lazy people, they would get together and they would, scrounge up a little change between all of them and put it in a big pile, and they would go buy a piece of land with that money. And they would all own it. And they would all go live on this land where many hands make light work. A bunch of lazy people got together and they planted farms, and their dads had taught them carpentry and plumbing and electrical and all that stuff. Like, they could sustain themselves with very little effort. Because they were hippies and they were lazy. They wanted to tune in, tune out, and drop out, bro, or whatever, however that slang. Bernie Sanders was so lazy that he got kicked out by those people. That's next level stuff, man. Right? But I get it. He's this sweet old man with, spit beads on the side of both of his mouth. He's talking about the millionaires and the billionaires. Bringing up that old gem, the old class war. It's the rich people. This is the guy who literally said, like, in the 70s, he said, millionaire senators are immoral. That's what he wrote. And now he's a millionaire senator. It's like, dude, you can't win because you have so badly shot yourself in the foot. It's not going to take any effort to take you down. You just got to keep banging that drum. Boston Bomber Bernie. Old Bernie Sanders wants the Boston Bomber to vote. He wants pedophiles to vote. Do you have children? Do you want pedophiles to be able to vote? Okay, well, then that's no for Bernie. Not saying you have to vote yes for Trump, but you definitely can't be voting yes for Bernie. That pretty much takes care of that. Mayor Pete, I mean, this guy's a joke, man. I'm not going to go into it, but I want to talk about Joe Biden because there's something. This is how bad politics have got. Because again, we've all been sitting around for the last 20 years going, just give me an outsider, give me anybody. Just find a version of Ross Perot, some outsider, some guy that's never been in politics, just a businessman, he knows how to make deals. Just let that guy be him. And it came in the form of Donald J. Trump. I wasn't happy about it either, right? I've told you this before. I love him now. I love me some Donald Trump now. I hated the idea back in the day. I loved it a lot more than Hillary Clinton, but I didn't like this. Like, that guy, well, he's an outsider, so let's see what we can do. Because politicians have gotten so far out of touch that they have forgotten that they have to sell themselves. There's salesmanship involved. And this Joe Biden ad is the classic blunder. Now let me explain. Do you guys remember in the early 1990s on Saturday Night Live, there was a very funny man named Kevin Nealon on the show. He's still around. He's still very funny. But Kevin Nealon was on the show, and Kevin Nealon had a reoccurring character, came up 2 or 3 times, called Mr. Subliminal. Or perhaps it was Subliminal Man, but I'm going to put my money on Mr. Subliminal. Right? He was talking to that girl that one time, and he's all talky, Mets tickets, talky, Mets, hot sex, talky, Mets tickets. You know what I mean? Mr. Subliminal. Right? And the joke there was, because back then people were like, there was this craze about, advertisers were putting subliminal messages in commercials and whatever. It was kind of like a kickback from the 70s about like, oh, if you play a record backwards, it'll tell you about Satan or something like that. It was that same concept, and he was making a joke out of it. The thing is that there was a huge element of truth to that in sales, right? When you're selling something, you want to keep repeating certain things, and you want to abstain from ever saying certain other things, namely the name of your competitor or a competing product. You don't even want to bring it up. You don't want to say, you want to let them say it, but you want to keep saying, for example, I've told you this guys before, the people who sell Encyclopedia Britannicas, I have so much respect for those people. Not all of them, obviously, but people who've actually made a living doing that and have done well. There's a lot of money to be made in selling encyclopedias, or at least there was. And these people it's a 52-point questionnaire, and they have it memorized. It's 52 questions that are worded in such a way that the answer can only be yes. Knock, 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 door opens. Hi, is this your home? Right? Can only be answered yes. Well, what if it's the maid? Well, then she's going to say no, and that encyclopedia salesman is going to move on. Right? It's 52 questions that can only be answered yes. Hi, do you live here? Yes. Oh, cool. Blah, blah, blah. Yes. You get them saying yes over and over again. And then at the end of that sales pitch, because by the 52nd question, they're in your living room, you've poured them coffee, you know, like you're thinking about asking him if he's hungry. You know what I mean? Like, you're family now. And by that 52nd question, you've said yes so many times that the word no is foreign to you. That's a beautiful thing. I mean, that took a bunch of people a long time to formulate that and figure that out. It's not as easy as it sounds. Right? Here's what Joe Biden did. You go back, if you watch, like, go onto Twitter or Facebook or just pull it up on YouTube and watch Joe Biden's ad. Guess what he says over and over and over again? He doesn't say his name, right? Because that would be the smart thing to do. Joe Biden, Joe Biden, Joe Biden. Drill it into your head. Mets tickets, hot sex, hot sex. Joe Biden, Joe Biden, Joe Biden. He doesn't do that. Instead, he runs a 30-second ad campaign for Donald J. Trump. And nobody realizes this. Nobody but salespeople understand this. I guarantee if you are, if you're a salesman, then obviously you know it. But if you know a professional and I'm talking about like a professional salesperson, like somebody who's a really nice person who's content and has, a certain, amount of squared awayedness, I'm not talking about a sleazeball, but like a professional. You go ask any professional salesperson if I'm right. Joe Biden ran a 30-second commercial where he just kept saying over and over and over, Donald J. Trump, Donald Trump, 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 Trump. You would think, now, for those of you who aren't salespeople, I know what you're thinking right now. You're thinking, yeah, but isn't it psychology that if you keep saying his name in a negative context? Well, you would think, but no. No, it's not. It's the damnedest thing, but it works exactly opposite. Do you remember, still probably to this day, but do you remember jingles? Right? Do you remember like Jack in the Box commercials would have that really annoying music in the background? Doot, 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 doot. That was it. Over on a loop. Doot, 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 doot. Now, it's 20 years later, I still remember it. Probably 30 years later, I still remember it. And so do you. And if you don't live in an area that has Jack in the Box and you've got something else where the same thing was done, it's like they put that annoying music in there to drive that nail into your head. They know it's annoying. It's by design, right? Because if you hear something over and over and over, even if it's annoying, it doesn't matter. It just needs to be stuck in your head. That's it. Whoa, what if it's in a negative context? Even better. Any emotion, any emotional response is like if you'll notice, like all of your memories, like all of your earliest memories, they're all tied to an emotional, like an emotional response to something. My earliest memory, I was like 2 years old and my brother had talked me into crossing the street without our mother's permission. I have a shot memory of that. And the reason why that's in my memory was because we were doing something illegal. We were crossing the street without mom's permission. It was a very emotional experience, evidently, because the memory is still there. The psychology of it. And this dude just ran a classic blunder. Never speak the name of your competitor. Never mention the competitive product. If I'm trying to sell you Coke or Pepsi, I don't want to say Coke. If I'm trying to sell you Pepsi, I'm not even going to mention Coke. I'm just going to be like Pepsi, 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 the choice of a new generation, Pepsi. See? This dude ran a 30-second, probably, I'm assuming, very expensive ad campaign for Donald J. Trump. It's hilarious. This guy went on for 30 seconds repeating, you know what I mean? It's like that old saying, like, speak of the devil. No, the whole thing goes like this: speak of the devil, and he appears. It's like, don't say the name of the devil, right? Don't say it, because if you do, he'll appear. Well, I mean, it's, there's some backstory to that, but it's the same thing. Like, don't do that. All you're doing is putting like a brand, like on how you take a brand and you stick it in a fire until it's glowing hot, and then you shove it on a cow's ass to mark it, to let everybody know that that's your cow. Well, this creepy Joe Biden just branded everybody's brain with Donald J. Trump. Psst. Trump. It's hilarious. The guy's dumb. They're all dumb. They're so dumb. They've forgotten. It's like, what? Look, here's a problem. That was the first problem that I just mentioned. It's not a problem for me. I love it. I think it's hilarious. But it's a problem for the Democrats, because they've gotten so far out of touch. It's like, no, you have to sell yourself. You have to sell yourself. And what was the message? What is Joe Biden's message? It's the exact same one as Hillary Clinton's, which is, vote for me. I'm not Donald Trump. Same thing. They're doing it again. And again, if you watch that little ad, his whole message is Donald Trump is a... Wait for it. Can you guess? Do you want to take a shot in the dark? A racist. Oh, boy. I haven't heard that one before. And if you vote for Donald J. Trump, guess what that makes you? A racist. Blah. Oh, that's a winner. That's a winner, Joe Biden. Are you not aware that this is played out? That nobody buys it anymore? Again, like, if you would have called me a racist, I don't know, 10 years ago, maybe, I would have taken your words and considered what you're saying. I would have thought about it, like, oh, geez, am I a racist? I mean, I know there's that thing with the thing and all that I told you guys about before. It was like, am I? Like, I would have meditated on it. But the fact that there's been an absolute onslaught of people running around calling everybody a racist is like, whoa, you don't know what that word means. It's clear that you don't know what that word means because you're using it for everything. Right? Like a peanut allergy is racism. Everything. Like truth. Literally. Truth. There's a person that was like is high up at Duke University, like one of the administrators that literally said on the website that facts are racist. It's like, okay, I don't think you know what that word means. It's because clearly it can't mean that. So therefore, when you say the word racist, you have to be thinking about something other than its definition. You have to be thinking about the definition of a different word. I don't know which word it is. I don't know what definition comes to your mind when you use that word. But when you call me a racist, I know, like, oh, you don't know what that word means. You're an idiot. And furthermore, you're so dumb that I'm not going to speak to you at all. I'm not going to stand here to try to find out like what the glitch in your system is. I'm just going to be like, okay, all right, I guess I'm a racist. Bye-bye. Joe Biden goes on TV and says anybody who supports Donald Trump is a racist because Donald Trump is a racist. Donald Trump, Donald Trump, Donald Trump, Donald Trump. Brilliant. So I think... Oh, and again, another thing. Obama won't support him. Now that's telling. A lot of people are sloughing that off, but that's actually telling. Because President Obama has been busy these last 2.5 years, 3 years. He's been busy right down the street from the White House forming his own political organization. I believe that what's going to happen is, I would say, right around September. Right around September, you're going to get the real Democrat nominee, because none of the people that are running right now can win. Creepy Joe can't win. I'm not going to go into it, but he's got a bad record for Democrats, right? If you're a Democrat and you're on the social you're not a centrist, you're on the left, then he's a loser. He's an old white man, so ding, ding, ding. He's allegedly heterosexual, another ding. He's got a horrible voting record, right? He can't win, and Bernie can't win. The lovable old curmudgeon, he can't win. He just said that he wants pedophiles to be able to vote. So that he's done. He wants the Boston bomber to be able to vote. He's done. He's all done. None of those other people, Swalwell, that's the guy I couldn't remember the other day. Swalwell can't win. He's got the face of a date rapist, and he says nonsense. I mean, he's a loser. So what's going to happen is in June, the Democrats are going to start debating one another, right? That's this year, 2019, in June. They're going to start debating one another, and they're going to start the circular firing squad, and they're going to pick each other off. So I would say that right around September, the Democrats are going to pull a Bill Clinton, right? They're going to inject somebody into the mix, and it will be a man. He will be good-looking, articulate, and he can spit out his lines. So be looking for that. That's again in the fall. Yeah, that's just my prediction. Because Joe Biden's going to keep all of them. Right? It's not just Joe Biden. You got to think about the salesmanship here. There's not a single Democrat saying, well, this is what I want to do for the country. The smart thing to do would be to go up and say, you know what? As much as Donald Trump is an awful human being, the fact is that he's made a lot of really bold moves on the economy, and that's why things are so good right now. And you know what? I'm going to capitalize. I'm going to take that and I'm going to implement my ideas, which is going to push it even further. I'm going to push Black and Hispanic unemployment even lower. That's what you got to do. You have to tell the people what you're going to do for them. If your whole campaign is preaching the name of Donald Trump, it's literally going to have the reverse effect of what you think it's going to. And by the way, this is sales 101. It's 101. This is what if you endeavor to be a professional salesman, like, you learn this in your first 12 months. This is easy stuff. It's a layup. And it's to watch these Democrats just continue to repeat the name of Donald Trump. It's like, do you people realize that you are spending your campaign finance money on getting Trump elected again? You keep beating the name Donald Trump into. There will be Democrats here. I won't be able to prove this to you. So I'm just going to have to ask you to trust me. There will be people on voting day, when they go down to the booth, Democrats, and they're going to leave their house and they're like, yeah, I'm going to get that Donald Trump. I'm going to put my vote in for Kamala Harris or Hillary Clinton, which I believe could probably enter the mix, after the firing squad thins itself out a little bit more. There's going to be people who leave their house with every intention of voting Democrat. But because Donald Trump is so on the brain, they're going to vote for Donald Trump on accident. That's going to happen. And listen, I say trust me on that, and you might be sitting there laughing right now, like, "Oh, Pete, what an idiot!" No, like I could cite research. I can show you research that would suggest that when you have a million or 100 million people voting, right, 50 million people voting Democrat, that there's going to be a certain amount of those people that are going to go to the polls, and because they have Donald Trump on the brain to such a degree, they're going to vote for Donald Trump on accident. So, I mean, again, I could qualify. It would take too long, and I'd have to pull stuff up. But trust me on that. Trust me on that. As a salesman, I know what I'm talking about here. So that's going to happen. Anyways, on to the crazy stuff. I promised you. Oh, Petey promises. I told you I'd do my best to try to convince you about my level of sanity. I'm going to be talking about demons. Yeah. Oh, yes. All right. You guys remember I made the point, I think just once. We were talking about George Soros. When George Soros was a young man, and he had just become a man. I mean, he was 13, 14 years old, something like that. Right? Young at the very starting gate of manhood. This George Soros, a young Jewish boy, was living in, what was it, Hungary? And they were thinning out the Jews. And some Nazis came to him. And they said, "Hey, listen, young man. You tell us where your people are so that we can kill them. And we'll protect you. You'll be our guy." This is very odd behavior for evil. You don't see it very often. Oh, boy. Hold on one second. The Muzzies are singing their songs. So, George Soros he's an interesting cat because demonic forces, they're really singular in purpose. They want destruction. And they don't care, the demons aren't known for playing the long game. They don't protect people. Right? But in this case, it's very rare. There is scriptural precedent for it. Every once in a while it happens. And in this case, demonic forces came and shielded George Soros. And that's why he's so evil. Evil touched him and protected him. And he did horrible things. He turned in Jews to the Nazis as a Jewish person. And so now he's got that running through his veins. And the reason I bring up that story is because what you're seeing right now, it is demonic behavior, and there's a number of evidences for that. You remember Hillary Clinton's little seizure that she had? Do you remember all the passing out, the multiple times of passing out? Well, but as it is that they denied, the Hillary camp denied that she was having any sort of actual medical problem. Remember they kept saying, it was just, she was thirsty. It was a heat stroke. It was a hot day. It's like, okay, well then I guess that kind of narrows it down, doesn't it? But it does leave the presence of demons around, the seizures. That's one thing that's, you go back to the story of the guy that asked Jesus to heal his kid, and Jesus says, "Well, how long has this been going on?" He says, "Since he was a little kid." And there was a demonic presence, and then his disciples were like, "Well, why couldn't we fix him? Why couldn't we cast him out?" And he says, "Well, this particular kind, you can only do it through prayer and meditation. Like you have to really have a prayer and meditation life. You have to be able to see it for what it is." Right? That's what's going on with Hillary Clinton. When you have the leader of the free world authorizing the FBI, the CIA, the government of the United Kingdom, the government of Australia, authorizing a strike against a sitting U.S. president, somebody who could potentially become president one day because he's the finalist in the Republican Party, and those nations going along with it. That's next level demonic activity. And listen, if you're sitting there going, "Oh, here goes Pete again talking about demons," it's like, okay, well then turn it off. Go find another podcast. Look at what's going on around you. They're talking about killing babies outside of the womb. That's Moloch. Moloch demands that. There are a number of credible allegations that the Clintons have been trafficking in babies. Oprah Winfrey spent a great deal of money and time and energy promoting a guy who was running a baby farm. And God knows where those children are. I'm talking about the John of God guy. He was running a rape farm where the export was babies. And then they would kill the mother after 1 or 2 or 3 babies, something like that. It's Oprah Winfrey. You see what I'm saying? There's a campaign of constant just lies and misinformation and confusion. CNN and the Young Turks and these, it's all demonic. And the thing is just a couple of things. There was that passage in Scripture. You guys remember it? For those of you who went to Sunday school. You remember that part where Jesus cast the demons into the pigs, and the pigs all ran into the ocean? Or the sea there, the little lake, whatever. Gadarenes, or Gennesaret, one of those two. What had happened in that story was they came upon a homeless man. He was a crazy person. He was so crazy that the townspeople had enough of this guy, and they took him out into the woods along the side of the road. And they tied him up with chains, and they chained him to a rock, right? And left him there to die. It's pretty significant, right? This guy was demon-possessed. He was a crazy person. And the townspeople had enough. They tied him to a rock using chains and left him there to die. And Jesus and his crew just so happened to be walking past him prior to him dying of thirst. So it was probably within a week of when these townspeople, or I don't know, the backstory on that guy isn't real clear. Maybe the townspeople took him water or food or something, but he was out there. Jesus comes upon him, and the demons just immediately start screaming out. Son of the Most High, they called him. Son of the Most High. Now that's significant. Right? Because there's a lot of ways that God is referred to in the Bible, and there's some of those names are pretty general. Like the word God, for example, is a very general title. Usually, anytime you see the word Elohim, it doesn't mean the Most High. It just means a spiritual being. An Elohim is just a spiritual being. And there's lots of them. Right? And in the book of Genesis, when it talks about the flood, there's a weird little passage, and it's like 3 verses long or 4 verses long. And right before you're told about God's decision to wipe out mankind, it says that that these beings, they were giants, they were Nephilim, they were kind of like they were hybrids between spiritual beings and women. And God, it says in these 4 verses that it says that the sons of God saw that the daughters of men were fair, and they were taking them for wives. And it's when you read that whole passage, that little passage right there is totally out of context. Because then the very next thing that he says is, and, the thoughts of, the thoughts of man were continually wicked all the time, and so God had to destroy him. So it's just a little bit of a backstory. Those Nephilim, right, are often referred to in this book called the Book of Enoch as the Watchers. And they are spiritual beings that are up to no good. They are Elohim that are bad, right? They are the people who teach mankind how to take what God has given them and make it evil. They are called the Watchers. And they all have different names. Names like Rephaim. Other kinds of names. The Prince of Persia. The Prince of the Power of the Air. These sorts of things. The Devourer. It's a hard word to say. Devourer. They all have different names. And in this case, when Jesus had met this crazy homeless guy, and the demons cried out, they said, hey, Son of the Most High, why are you here to bother us? It's not your time yet. And Jesus rebuked him, and they said, well, if you're going to cast us out, why don't you cast us into those pigs? And then Jesus does something really weird. And so anytime you see something weird in the Bible, you have to stop. Say, wait a minute. Why did that happen? What's he saying there? What does this mean? Jesus asked him, it's his name. What is your name, filthy spirit? And he replies, my name is Legion, for we are many. Right? So it's weird. It's weird that Jesus took the time to let this demon identify himself. The Book of Enoch is just a little bit of a backstory. The Book of Enoch is not, you will not find that in your Bible, because it was never available really until the Dead Sea Scrolls were found. The Dead Sea Scrolls is, in my opinion, is the greatest archaeological find. I think most archaeologists, even the most staunch atheist ones, will tell you that the most significant archaeological find in human history was the Dead Sea Scrolls. What about the pyramids? Nobody found the pyramids. They were always there. Everybody always knew where the pyramids were, The Dead Sea Scrolls were a compilation of books kept by a religious sect called the Essenes. And these were devout people. And they held the book of Enoch in very high regard. They held the book of Isaiah in the highest regard. Right? And Jesus quoted the book of Isaiah more than any other book. He quoted them all, but none more repetitively than the book of Isaiah. Jesus also quoted on a few different occasions the book of Enoch. And we know that because we can go through and we can see where Jesus is quoting scripture and we can reference it, right, against other scripture. And those references are not found anywhere else except in the book of Enoch. So we know that the book of Enoch at least has to be considered as holy scripture because we know that Jesus did. Right? The problem with that, though, is that we don't really know if we have the same version of the book of Enoch that Jesus had. You know what I mean? So it gets difficult pretty quickly. But the book of Enoch, okay, so Enoch was a guy that he predated Noah, right? So he was before Noah. Enoch was a guy that was so holy. He had such a unique relationship with God that it says that God just took him. He didn't die. God just reached down and snatched him up and said, all right, come on home. And Enoch gives a pretty detailed explanation of who the Watchers are. And they are referred to as the sons of God. As you know, I mean, it gets pretty crazy. But just so you know, there's good reason to believe that Noah and his family were not the only beings that survived the flood. Noah, his family, and all the animals. That because these people called the Watchers or the Nephilim or whatever, the bodies that they indwelled, were drowned to death just like the pigs, but they continued on because they're spiritual beings. Right? They never left. They've always been here and they've always been seeking power. Because that's what demons want. That's one of the hallmark attributes of demonic activity is the thirst for power. Because it's anytime you seek power, it's like, well, you already have the power. Just go back a little bit further to qualify that statement. If you go back to the Garden of Eden, right? What was the big sales pitch that the snake gave to Eve? If you eat of this tree, you're going to know the secrets. If you eat of this tree, you're going to know the secret knowledge. Right? You're going to have access to the things that you don't have access to right now. And the only way that you can know the secrets is by eating of this tree. The tree of the knowledge of good and evil. Right? That's the sales pitch. They already had access to whatever it was that they were viewing as being secrets held by God. They already had access to it. God had already given them everything. They had access to it. They didn't need to eat of the tree. Right? That's the thing about when people come and they try to tell you about, like, oh, if you join this religion, you're going to have secret knowledge. You're going to be better than other people because you're going to know the truth. And then you'll be better. You'll be superior because you're going to know the secrets and those stupid idiots over there will not. That's demonic. That's a demonic sales pitch. There are mysteries, right? There's things that God has given you that you have no idea that you have access to, but that's just a matter of time. Anybody coming along saying, I'm going to give you secrets, man. That's the devil. That's the bad Elohim. Or the Watchers. Maybe even Satan himself. I don't know. But that's the thing. And these people who, again, the Clintons, the Obamas, the lies surrounding them that are just now coming to light. Like, that's, those people, the more that these things get plunged into the light, the closer we're going to get to finding out about that Clinton Foundation. We're going to find out about the Clintons' ties to trafficking in children. Now, when children are trafficked, those children are murdered. Usually not right away. Because the killing of children is if you go back to the worship of Moloch, which is the owl, right? Sometimes represented as an owl, sometimes represented as a bull with a transgendered bull dude. The whole thing with Moloch is that Moloch demanded human sacrifice, child sacrifice. And the worshippers of Moloch would have been granted secret knowledge about the savagery of mankind and the true nature of the potential of mankind's savagery. mankind's beast nature. And to get those kind of realizations, you have to do the thing that breaks God's heart the most, and that is the slaying of an innocent. When we hear about New York City lighting up their entire city in celebration of 40-week abortions, celebrating 40-week abortions, that's Malak. He's a watcher, and he's been around a long time. He never left. None of those people ever left. Those beings. They're not hard to spot once you know what you're looking for. When you hear stories of the Nazis pulling aside a little Jewish boy, saying, "Hey kid, tell us where your family is. Tell us where your people are. We'll protect you." And then that man goes on to become the man that George Soros is, with the ruthlessness and the relentlessness. You got to pay attention to that stuff. When again, at this point, the whole Clinton's murdering children and Bill Clinton going off to the Lolita Express Island and raping children, those are only allegations right now. But there's a lot of them. It's like that, I mentioned this before, the comedian Cat Williams. He has this in one of his comedy specials, he was talking about Michael Jackson to a black audience. And he was like, "Listen, man, I get it. We all love Michael, but look, if somebody accuses you of the same thing over and over again in different circumstances for 30 years, it's true. You did that." And then he goes on to say, he's like, "Listen, the way you keep your home is that your home is representative of who you want to have sex with." He says, I'll give you a case in point. Like, if you come over to my house, you will notice that I have silk pillowcases. And I don't like silk pillowcases. I know that black women like silk pillowcases because they got weaves in their hair, and it makes it so that the weaves don't fall out. My house is prepared for who I want to have sex with. It's not for me, it's for them. And Michael Jackson has an amusement park. And he was making that, and the black audience, they were not following at all. They were like, "Whoa, you can't be talking about Michael." My point is like, look, if it was just Seth Rich, if you know what I mean, that would be one thing. But there's like 30 people that have been suicided by the Clintons. It's a lot. It's not 30, but it's close. It's like, wait a minute, you know what I mean? It's like over and over and over and over and over. You did that shit, Clintons. Over and over and over again. The thing about, Bill Clinton authorizing all this money to go to the CPS, Child Protective Services, to snatch children out of their homes and put them in the foster care. And now all of a sudden there's all these kids from foster care just missing. What was it that I said? Over 20,000 children during the Obama administration that were apprehended at the border and then set free into the interior of the United States. Those children are missing. They're just gone. Then you come to Haiti and the Clinton stuff. Like, you are going to see an escalation of demonic activity between now, just like I've been telling you now for like a year. Like, this has just been escalating, and I've been right the whole time. It's like, look, this has continued to escalate. And now that the Mueller report is a dud for the Democrats, they have to find something more outrageous. They have to. They're locked in. They cannot see what they're doing. They're bumping around in the darkness, and they have to double down. when Bernie Sanders finally gets to, I don't know, maybe the other Democrats will take him out, but if he ever gets in front of Donald Trump, all Donald Trump has to do is sit there and just take Bernie Sanders' old wrinkly ass skin and stretch it out over a drum and then just bang on that drum. You said pedophiles. You said pedophiles. You said pedophiles should vote. And he's done. Because Bernie Sanders cannot do anything now but double down on that point. He has the only way he can go now is to become more outrageous. You see what I'm saying? And the more these people get locked into that, you know, I mean, because listen, it's demonic. And it's all of them. It's all of them. But because demons, right, or watchers, or whatever you want to call them, they've been defeated. They are weak. That's why they peddle weakness. That's why they demand that their followers attack the innocent, defenseless. It's because they're weak. That's what they have. That's what they peddle, because that's what they are. And Jesus Christ defeated them. The Son of the Most High God. Son of the Most High. He defeated them. So I hope that you guys can dig the perspective, man. I hope you can dig the perspective, man, and look at it. And take it in, because it's once this cosmic battle is over, I don't know. I don't know which way it'll go after that, but there's a very good possibility that it won't ever manifest itself like this again for years. Like you have to take account. This has happened before, right? Go read everything that Dietrich Bonhoeffer wrote. Like, he saw it too. He saw it. He saw the demons, and he wrote about it. And then he wrote, that's what makes that thing that I read to you guys that one time that much more powerful, is because he said, like, at the end, he goes, look, man, the demons are one thing, right? Joseph Goebbels and what was the doctor's name? Whatever. Like, those people, those are demons. Those aren't real, like, those once were people, but now they've been infested by demons. And there's that. But he said, but then there's stupid. Right? The whole nation of Germany isn't demon possessed. Those people are just stupid. And the thing is that although evil's really bad and kind of scary, the thing is that at least we know where it's going. We know what they want. We know what their plans are. We can fight them, because they have an agenda. But stupid has no agenda. Stupid is just following demons, you know what I mean? And he makes the point, he's like, man, I think stupid is actually much worse. And that's exactly what we're seeing. Like, we're seeing the demons in the Justice Democrats. And who did the Justice Democrats get? Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, who's very good at remembering her lines. I'll give her that. Not so great when she goes off script. Perfect example. She goes on that podcast and she's like, yeah, I mean, there's a whole bag of things that we can just reach into the bag and pull out and say, well, we can impeach Donald Trump for this. I mean, come on. And the leftist SJW bedwetting soy drinking podcast host asked her, like, okay, what do you think the top 3 are? He didn't mean to do that, by the way. He was just thinking, like, all right, this is going to be really good, because this is a professional politician. She's going to tell us, like, the top 3 things. And she's like, the emoluments. I think the emoluments, like, he could be impeached for that. And then, of course, the podcast host doesn't ask her, like, oh, What does that word mean? You know? What are you talking about? And then she goes, and you know, his tax policy, it's like, that's not impeachable. It's policy. You know, you can't impeach a president because you don't like his policy, you idiot. And just too many things. You're just like, oh, you're stupid. The people who run you, the people who own you, they're demons. Those are the watchers. And they're watching you, they're controlling you. You, on the other hand, you're dangerous because you're stupid. You know? Anywho, are you not convinced? Are you not convinced now I'm a crazy person? There's demons everywhere, people. You can see them if you know what you're looking for. Please hit subscribe on the podcast. You guys have a great weekend. Support the show with cash, money. Subscribe Star, man. If you guys want to donate monthly, give gifts monthly. I don't know the proper term. If you guys want to give me some money every month, go to subscribestar.com/arch-advocate. Arch Advocate. And if you just want to throw some money my way like Troy did yesterday, you can go to paypal.me/archadvocate. Thanks, Troy. Thanks, everybody. Thanks for the dough. Dough keeps the show on the flow. Thanks, everybody. Have a good weekend, and I'll talk to you on Monday.